You can open a jar. You can carry groceries. You can climb a flight of stairs without stopping to catch your breath. And by every modern standard, you are probably fine. But your body was built for something else entirely. For roughly 300,000 years, the human body was shaped by a world that demanded everything from it. Every single day. Not a workout, not a training program, just survival. And the gap between what your body was built to do and what you actually ask it to do today is one of the strangest stories in the history of our species. So let's talk about why ancient humans were stronger than you. Not because they were a different species, not because they had some advantage you lack, but because of what daily life actually cost them. Your skeleton tells the story before any words do. Bioarchaeologist Brigitte Holt at the University of Massachusetts has spent years analyzing the bones of early modern humans. People anatomically identical to you, who lived between 10,000 and 30,000 years ago. What she found was striking. Their leg bones were dramatically more curved and dense than yours. The cortical bone, the hard outer shell, was thicker. The cross-sectional shape of their femurs indicated they were regularly covering terrain that would leave most modern people unable to walk the next day. These were not athletes in training. This was Tuesday. The average hunter-gatherer covered between 9 and 15 miles per day on foot, across uneven ground, carrying things: tools, food, children, water. Not on a treadmill. Not on a marked trail. Through brush, across rocks, up inclines, in heat and cold and rain. Anthropologist Herman Pontzer at Duke University has studied the Hadza people of Tanzania, one of the last populations still living as hunter-gatherers, and found that despite burning roughly the same total daily calories as sedentary Westerners, the Hadza use a far greater proportion of their energy on movement and physical work. Their bodies had adapted to expect it. Grip strength alone tells you something. Studies comparing the bones of Upper Paleolithic humans to modern athletes found that ancient humans, both male and female, had forearm and hand bones indicating grip strength that rivals or exceeds today's elite rowing athletes. Not because they trained their grip, because every tool they used, every animal they butchered, every branch they climbed, every hide they scraped, demanded it. Now imagine doing that from childhood. There was no childhood spent sitting. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, one of the most important archaeological sites in the world for understanding early human behavior, researchers have found evidence of children participating in tool-making, food processing, and camp maintenance from a very young age. The bones of juvenile hunter-gatherers show bone density and muscular attachment markers that modern children simply do not develop. Movement was not recreation. It was life. And it wasn't just the legs and the hands. The spine and core of early humans show adaptation to carrying loads, sustained, heavy, irregular loads, over years and decades. Orthopedic researcher Timothy Ryan at Penn State has noted that the trabecular bone, the spongy interior lattice of bone, in ancient humans shows a pattern of stress distribution consistent with people who were load-bearing from adolescence onward, carrying a child, hauling a carcass, dragging timber, hoisting water. The body responded by becoming structurally different. Yours responds to what you ask it to do, too. That is the uncomfortable twist in this story. The human body is not a fixed thing. It is a surface that responds to pressure. It gets harder where it is used and softer where it is not. The bone density of an ancient hunter-gatherer was not genetic destiny. It was the product of a life that demanded load, impact, and movement from the moment they could walk. Modern populations in wealthy nations are experiencing what researchers call a skeletal gracilization. Bones that are measurably thinner, less dense, and more fragile than those of humans who lived just a few centuries ago. let alone tens of thousands of years back. Your bones are the bones of someone who has mostly been sitting. But strength was not only about bone, it was about what the body had been asked to recover from. Ancient humans were injured constantly. Fractures, sprains, cuts, bites, burns. Skeletal analysis of Neanderthals, our closest evolutionary relatives, by Eric Trinkhaus at Washington University in St. Louis, revealed a pattern of healed fractures and musculoskeletal injuries that most closely resemble the injury profiles of modern rodeo riders. Not soldiers, not laborers. Rodeo riders, people whose bodies absorb violent, unpredictable physical impact on a regular basis. And they healed. And they kept going. There was no alternative. You did not get a recovery week. There was no one to cover your responsibilities while you rested. Weakness was not a personal struggle. It was a survival liability for the entire group. And so the body that came down through 300,000 years to you was one that had been tested, broken, repaired, and pushed forward through conditions that modern physical culture cannot fully replicate, because modern physical culture is, by design, controlled. Real physical life was not controlled. A hunt was not a gym session with a defined end, tracking an animal, which the Hadza and other modern hunter-gatherers still do, using a technique called persistence hunting, running prey to exhaustion over hours and sometimes an entire day, demanded not just cardiovascular fitness, but a kind of sustained, low-grade, unrelenting physical output that is almost impossible to reproduce on a schedule. Hermann Pontzer's research suggests that the metabolic flexibility of hunter-gatherers, their ability to shift efficiently between fuel sources, is qualitatively different from what most modern people experience. Their bodies had never learned to be lazy. Yours has. Not as a failure, as an adaptation. The human body conserves energy where it can. It always has. It is just that for most of human history, energy conservation happened against a backdrop of constant, unavoidable physical demand. So the body stayed strong by default. Remove that demand, and the body does what it has always done. It adapts to the life it is actually living. Which brings you to right now. You are sitting, or lying down, or at best standing still while you read this. Your bones are thinner than your great-great-grandmother's bones. Your grip is weaker than a person who spent their life scraping hides and hauling water. Your cardiovascular system has likely never been asked to sustain 6 hours of continuous movement across rough terrain, and none of that is your fault. It is the logical outcome of living in a world that has successfully engineered physical effort out of daily life. But here is what has not changed. Your body is still the same body, the same architecture, the same capacity to respond, to adapt, to rebuild density and strength and endurance when it is asked to. The Hadza do not train. They do not follow a program. They simply live in a way that places consistent, varied, real physical demand on the body across a lifetime. And their bodies respond accordingly. Your body would too. You opened a jar this morning. Your ancestors opened the Ice Age. The difference was never the body. It was always the life.